Dealing with anxiety, crossing the border edition. I just crossed the border back into the US, and oh my God, that winds me up. Not nearly so much as it winds me up going across the border in the other direction into Canada, because I'm a US citizen. So, what's good advice about crossing the border? What dumb things have I done? To give a little background, I have an apartment up in Montreal, and I go to vacation there for a month or two at a time because my businesses in the US are pretty intense, and I just work at them. They're in a rural area, so I don't have much to do but work. So I work, and then I go up to Canada and I relax. So without further ado, here are some things to think about when you're crossing the border. It winds me up to no end because they've got all these records on me. They're going to worry about certain things, but you have to. Most of the guys are really nice, and they're trying to do a job. And what you're trying to do is not get on their radar. Don't do something weird. Just crossing. I have this weird camper on the back of my truck because I build campers, and the guy wanted to look at it. Fortunately, I didn't get, sent to secondary, which would have taken a long time. It's important to remember when you're coming back into the US that they can't deny you entry. They can detain you, and I've been detained before, and that can last for quite a while. The other funny thing about it is that they pride themselves on having little games and little things they do to make themselves better at their job, and that means that they're going to ask you questions, sometimes trick questions, if they're suspicious of you. And they're going to be suspicious if you're doing something weird, or if you are nervous, and you're going to be a little nervous because you're crossing a border. At least, hey, I am. To tell you a story, and so this is the problem. When you're nervous, and this is a person in a position of authority, you're going to tend to want to agree with them. And so I was coming back. I did the stupid thing of going into Canada a long time ago for just like a few hours and then coming back. They really don't like that. They wanted to know whether I had hooked up with someone, either be it a guy or a girl. They were oddly curious about that. And this is the US Border Patrol, and they are looking into my records. They've taken me out of my car. I'm sitting inside chatting with the guy. They're examining my car in great detail. And he's looking at my records, and he's saying, oh, you've traveled quite a bit. And I have traveled quite a bit. Oh, I see you've been to Tokyo. And there is, oh my God, a temptation to be like, yeah, because he told you that. He's the authority figure. And of course, he's playing a game, and I say, no, I've never been to Tokyo. And he looks at the screen, and he does this elaborate thing of being like, I read the wrong thing. Sorry about that. You didn't read the wrong thing. You knew that, and you were trying to trip me up. Another time I forgot my passport, and they started asking me questions about, I said I was from Boston, and they started asking me questions about Boston football players. And I knew, amazingly for me, the answers to those things. And in fact, he didn't know. I think he said something like Drew Bledsoe, and I said, yeah, BC, and he didn't think that was the case. I'm like, I don't think it's the case. So that's my little advice about crossing the border. Mainly, don't be weird about it, and also say, this is very good advice from a friend of mine, say as little as possible if you're doing this a lot, because if you give them a thread to pull on, they are by nature and by duty obliged to pull on that thread. And I've disagreed with my friend about this because I'm like, I try to be conversational and look like I'm really being very open. I am being open. But they can pull on that thread and get more and more information until they start to get nervous about you.